that's bringing us into Africa Connect now, because what we understand is that the Gambian authorities have equally foiled a military coup attempt, and they've equally arrested 4 soldiers plotting to overthrow President Adama Barrow's administration. According to the Gambian government, the military arrested 4 soldiers linked to the alleged coup after a military operation on Tuesday. Coup attempts are not common in the Gambia, as we understand, which is still reeling from more than 2 decades under former President Yahya Jammeh, marked by authoritarian and alleged abuses. Well, Jammeh himself seized power, as we know it, in 1994 and foiled several attempts to overthrow his government before he lost that election in 2016, bringing in Adama Barrow. But Honorable Mbande, just before I bring you back, I want us to go to Gambia now. Let's hear from Omar Wale. He's one of the broadcast journalists working in the country there, just to get the very latest. Omar, welcome to the polls here on Joy News. What's the latest in the Gambia as we speak, and what more is the government saying about what's happening there? And kindly unmute for me, Omar, so I can get the point you're making. Omar, kindly unmute for me so I can get the point you're making. I'm just asking about the latest in the Gambia as we speak.
So, thank you so much for having me. The latest is that the 5th person has been arrested. As of yesterday, 4 people were arrested. But the 5th person from the Presidential Guard Brigade has been arrested. And 2 more other people are still at large. So that is the situation now. ECOWAS, the African Union, and the civil society in the country and opposition parties have condemned the coup d'etat.
Do we have any idea of what may have been linked to this latest attack that we're reading of and hearing of in the Gambia?
So we don't know the exact motive behind this, what motivated this alleged coupist, but there are so many factors. The Gambian military has been disgruntled following Jammeh's removal from office in 2017. Since then, the Ghanaians and Nigerians and Senegalese are in charge of the country. So the responsibilities were taken from the Gambian army and handed over to those foreign forces. And that's really demoralized and made the Gambian army to be dormant. So they're frustrated, and part of the reason is that, and Jammeh also commands significant support in the Gambian army. Most of them resigned, some even deserted the army because they say they can't be loyal to President Barrow. The relationship between Barrow and the Gambian army is not wholehearted, it's not very cordial.
I'm just wondering what the feeling is now in the Gambia. How are citizens generally feeling?
Well, mixed reactions. Some think this is not really a coup d'etat. Considering those involved, they are junior ranking officers in the Gambian Navy, the Gambian military, the police, the military police, and the State Guard Battalion. So they are corporals and lance corporals and sergeants. These are junior officers. So according to military experts, they don't have any influence in the army. They have no influence over the command, and even they don't have access to weaponry. So they are not in any strategic position to, conduct any successful coup in the country. You might remember the president's security has been handled by the Senegalese. So even if you remove Barrow, the likelihood of Senegal coming into the Gambia and putting him back is possible. So like it happened in 1981 when the former president, the founding president Jawara was toppled, Senegal had to come in and reinstall him back as the president. So that is the situation.
Any sights and sounds of Adama Barrow himself? Because there are many who are wondering about his safety.
Well, he's sound and safe. Security situation is normal, and what we know, the government just issued very sketchy statements that are not very detailed. They will come into 2-paragraph statements and inform the public. But they still did not tell us what motivates these people, the reason why they want to topple Barrow from power.
And I'm equally interested in what, of course, foreign missions, civil society is saying within the Gambia itself, knowing that the West Africa sub-region is increasingly becoming unsafe, looking at the trend of military takeovers that we're experiencing.
Yeah, so that part of the reason is that you look at Mali, Burkina, and other countries in the region. So with what they have seen, and like I said, the army is really disgruntled. So they also might want to take advantage of that, borrow a leaf from what is happening in those countries.
Umar, just hold on for us briefly. I want to hear from Honorable Emmanuel Bombande. You're also vexed with martyrs happening in the sub-region, sir. I mean, the latest being the Gambia, attempted military takeover. This is amounting to about 6 in just this year alone. Mali has fallen to that, Guinea fallen to that, and Burkina Faso. Listening to the report coming through from Umar, what's your take on what's happening in the sub-region?
Thank you so much, and we must appreciate Umar for his excellent journalism. I have 2 observations. First, it is very sad that we continue to experience these setbacks and developments in our sub-region. My first point, which is related to this development, is that the moment some of our elected leaders in West Africa started to manipulate and influence their constitutions upon which they swore to serve their people, when they started manipulating those constitutions to extend and prolong their term of office, they made coup d'etats to become tolerant again. They created a false sense that if a military were able to stage a successful coup, they can rule and only now manage a transition and handover. And that's why in this first observation, the collective effort to insist that in West Africa, you cannot serve more than 2 terms when you are elected by your people, which Ghana led, and which up to now, there has been no consensus upon, because Cote d'Ivoire, Senegal opposed it. We must come back to that drawing board. And all the people of West Africa must mobilize and insist that their leaders must accept the amendment of our protocol on good governance.
Well, in terms of getting consensus on the 2-term limit, you agree that may be a challenge. President Akufo-Addo, at the time of being the ECOWAS chair, even found some difficulties in expediting that before the expiration of his term. But beyond that, in the case of the Gambia, don't you feel that it's much more of a transitional lapse? The fact that the country was not able to deal with the post-Yaya Jammeh era leading into Adama Barrow, swearing in properly, a reason for which there are some of these tendencies still remnant in the country.
Yes, so my first observation was more generic. Right. It was more like general. Right. But if you listen to Omar and even the summary that you just made, the implicit understanding of our 1999 protocol, which we simply call the mechanism, is clear. When in West Africa, we feel that one of our member states is encountering an internal security situation that has the likelihood of spilling over into the neighborhood, or the likelihood of destabilizing the government that the people elected, what kicks in is the concept of supranationality in terms of security. And that's why the Ghanaian, Nigerian, and Senegalese troops keeping the security of the Gambia should not be understood as foreign soldiers. They should be understood as the ECOWAS presence that is bringing supranationality for a security arrangement that keeps the government of the Gambia stable. Now, you must understand that under the circumstances of Yaya Jammeh's exit, it does not just take 1 year for the democratically elected government of the Gambia and its security apparatus to quickly settle in and be well, if you would call it, prepared to deal with the ongoing challenges, particularly because of the nature of the divide that the military had experienced under Yaya Jammeh, now going back into an Adama Barrow government. Right. And that's why Gambia is our classical example of the need for a supranationality understanding of security to maintain the stability of the Gambia until they now get back fully in how they are able to take fully the operationalization of their security system.
Omar, let me wrap up with you. So going forward, what are we expecting in the coming days in terms of security arrangements?
Well, what we're expecting, they're going to be investigating, and they will commit more details as what motivated these people to stage these coups. They put it, and but Gambians still cast doubt on this. Most Gambians said this is actually not true because Barrow had every opportunity to reform the security when Jammeh left the country. And if the constitution that's supposed to guarantee two-term limits was in place, none of this will happen. But when the constitution was drafted, it was taken to the National Assembly. It was killed, rejected by supporters of President Barrow. And from 2017 to date, part of the ECOWAS mandate was to make sure that this security is reformed. We have a new constitution, but the security sector reform did not happen. So, and there are even allegations that non-Gambians are serving in the Gambian military. So all those things are factors. But hopefully in the coming days and weeks, we will know what is the latest, why these people attempted to overthrow the government of Adama Barrow, and who are behind them, because as far as we know, it's only 7 or 6 of them junior ranking officers in the Gambian Navy and so on.
And I thought that would have been the last, but the point Emmanuel Bombande left off on about the transitional period, and part of which we may be experiencing what is happening in the Gambia now. What has this got to do, or otherwise, with the Yahya Jammeh regime?
Jammeh still commands support, not only among the civilian population, but in the military. Like I said earlier on, some people deserted the army, some resigned because they're not happy with the way things were going under President Barrow. And he still and this coup came 48 hours after Jammeh made a telephone call and said he's coming back to the country and he's going to take charge and complete the project he started. So his party is still functional, his supporters are in the army and so on. So he has, we can't point exactly and say he has a hand in it or is linked to it, but Jammeh factor also play a crucial role in this.
Well, Omar Wale, thank you for joining us all the way from the Gambia. Your final words, Honorable Emmanuel Bombande.
No, it's just to appreciate and to basically say this. You cannot solve a problem when you don't tackle it at the structural level, which we call the root causes. And so, whilst we are dealing with what is proximate, what we are seeing surfacing every day, we must be reminded to go back and tackle the underlying root causes, which includes good governance, respect for term limits, and leadership that understands that you serve only at a certain period and then you leave. You cannot be there perpetually. And
I'm grateful. We'll interact once again when, of course, you're free. We know that you're a very busy man. That's Honorable Emmanuel Bombande joining us here on The Pulse.